All right, Khan, Shalom, Shalom, Israel, Shalom to the Torah, Shaz, Yash, Allah, giving the course, all honor, glory, and praise unto the Most High God, Yahweh. In the name of Omega, God, Send Yahweh Shah, this brother Yash Allah. Come back, show yet another video of the Spirit by Yahweh, by Hashem, Hamashiach, Mamalak Yahweh Shah. All right, so, Salakia. So, without further ado, I'm gonna get straight to this. All right, so this is basically just going into Psalm chapter 119, not the whole thing, of course, but just as you may know, if you look at Psalm chapter 119, it's divided into several parts because it's the longest chapter in the Bible. All right. So I'm gonna pull it up on the screen just to show it. But I'm not gonna be. I don't plan to be too active on sharing my screen. Right, that makes sense. But so this is Psalm chapter 119, right? And as you can see here, the first thing in the verse is Aleph. When you look at the Hebrew alphabet, of course the modern Hebrew alphabet, you're going to have Aleph as the first letter, and then as the second letter, it's going to be Bet, right? Bet, and then as the third, you just keep going down, right? So the Bet. I don't know why they put the H here, but normally they'll just put B-E-T, Bet, right? In the modern Hebrew, that is. Now in the Paleo Hebrew, it would just be Ah, Ba, right? Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, etc., etc. But in the modern Hebrew, it's Aleph, right? Aleph, Bet, right? Gemil, right? Which would be the third letter. Dalet, it would be Dalet, right? So on and on and on. So as we see here, that's how Psalm chapter 119 is divided into several parts. It's divided into several Hebrew letters, characters. Now without further ado, we're going to break down the segment of Aleph, right? Let's go to Psalm chapter 119 and let's start at verse 1, right? It says, "Blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of the Lord." So yeah, there's a such thing as the undefiled. There's a such thing as a perfect man or woman. There's a such thing as, someone that's holy, that's someone that's upright. Don't let these Christians fool you saying that there's no one that's perfect, there's nobody that's upright, there's nobody that's righteous. They'll run to certain precepts like Romans 3 and verse 23. It talks about how all have sinned and have come short of the glory of God. Well, that doesn't mean that we can't, strive for that perfection. We know that in Matthew 5 and verse 48. What did the Lord say? All right, let's go to Matthew 5 and verse 48. Matthew 5 verse 48. It says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." Right? So the Lord said, look, you have to be perfect. He said, look, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. If Christ wants us to be perfect, that's definitely something we can strive for. And he expects us to be that way, right? He expects us to be that way, right? Let's go to let's go to Genesis, right? Chapter 17. This is Genesis chapter 17 and verse number 1. "And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me and be thou perfect." So the Lord said unto Abram, hey, guess what? Walk before me and be thou perfect. So why would he tell Abram to be perfect if that's something that you just simply can't do at all, right? Since everybody sins. Hey, that's not something that the Lord agrees with, man. Now, of course, we all go off, but doesn't necessarily change the fact that certain men were counted perfect in the eyes of the Most High, blameless. Let's go to Job chapter 1 and verse number 1. "There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God, and eschewed evil." So Job was called perfect by the eyes of the Most. In the eyes of the Most High, he was called perfect. So what are we to say that if nobody can be perfect at all? That would be completely off to say. Let's go to the book of Slakia. I want to get First Kings, right? I want to get First Kings. This is First Kings chapter 11 and verse 4. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. So his heart, so Solomon's heart, right, wasn't perfect like David's heart was towards the Most High. David had a perfect heart. He was walking in his integrity all the time. And that's what causes you to have a perfect heart, right? Walking in your integrity at all times, right? And loving the Most High. Now let's keep reading in that. So it says, blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of the Lord. Yeah, they're not walking in anything else, walking in the law of the Most High. It says, blessed are they that keep his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart. So the Lord said, you're blessed when you keep his testimonies. When you keep those things that's written therein, you're blessed when you do that. You're not blessed just because you have 10 cars. You're not blessed because you have a multitude of treasure, multitude of money, all this stuff. Like the Lord said in the book of Luke. All right, I'm gonna get this in the book of Luke. This is the book of Luke, chapter what precept is it through the Spirit? I might get in my other Bible through the Spirit. This is the book of Luke, chapter 12 and verse 15. All praises. It says, and he said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. So a lot of people are covetous. They're covetous, in the sense that they want a lot of possessions. They covet after things it's not profitable. They covet after cars. Certain people have, like, of course I'm talking about rich people, but they covet after Bentleys or Bentleys, Ferraris, Lambos, Bugattis, etc., etc. The Lord said, "Your man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things of which he possesseth." The Lord doesn't care about that, right? What the Lord cares about is if you're walking in His testimonies, and if you're seeking Him with your whole heart, right? It says with your whole heart, and that's something that's a little challenging to do. Seeking the Most High with your whole heart. Because it's written before time in the book of Deuteronomy. If thou shalt what? Love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Let's go to Deuteronomy. All right, let's get that. It's Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse number 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. You see that? So the Lord said, look, he already said that from the beginning. You have to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind. And that's something that's a little challenging, man. Christians, they always quote that precept, but we know that they don't do that at all. How can you love the Lord your God with all your whole heart if you're not even keeping his commandments? If you teach that the commandments are, done away with, how is that the case? Right? So it says, in that seek him with the whole heart. We want to be seeking the Most High as well. Right? The Lord said in the book of Hosea, chapter 5 and verse 15, says, I will go and return unto my place, right? Until they acknowledge their offense and their affliction, shall they seek me early. So the Lord, that's what he wants. He wants to be sought out. Look at this precept in the book of Proverbs, chapter 2 and verse 1. My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver and searchest for her as hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. So the Lord, he wants you to search this thing out. He wants you to search out the treasures. He's not just going to give it to you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he might bring you into this truth, but it's up to you from then to build yourself up through the Spirit and to continue to search for these treasures and this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Right? Let's keep going. It says, and they shall do no iniquity. They shall walk in his ways. Right? Exactly. And what is iniquity? Iniquity is sin. The Lord said, look, they shall they also do they also do no iniquity. They walk in the Most High's ways. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. So yeah, you're blessed when you keep the precepts diligently. You know, the Lord said, look, we want to keep the commandments. We want to keep the precepts diligently. Meaning, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you're vigilant about it. You're keeping these precepts with you all the time, everywhere you go. You know, and that's something that's also a little challenging to do too. Because sometimes a precept might escape you. Sometimes a verse might escape you. Sometimes you might forget about a verse. But nevertheless, when you read this chapter, all right, David constantly talks about how he meditates in the precepts. He meditates in the law. I'm gonna get an example of that. I'm gonna get a precept in that same chapter. All right, let's go to Psalm chapter 119. Let's see here. Yeah, in verse 15, exactly. All praises. It says, I will meditate in thy precepts and have respect unto thy ways. So he clearly says that he's going to meditate in the precepts. You know, when you're meditating in something, you're thinking about it over and over and over again. And you're pondering upon it. You understand? And so when you're doing that, you're trying to retain that knowledge. You're trying to retain those words, trying to retain that information. And so that's why David constantly was meditating in the law of the Most High, right? And while I'm here, I might as well just get Psalm chapter 1, because in Psalm chapter 1 verse 2 it says, "But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night." You know, so meditation is also a good thing to do, right? It's because you're thinking upon the Most High's ways, his commandments, his precepts, and keeping it with you diligently. Verse 5, oh, that my ways were directed to keep thy statutes. And you want to also pray that as well. Pray that the Lord directs you in the right path. Because whatever you say, do, or whatever things happen to you is already ordained of the Most High. We don't have control over our own will, right? When you think about it, you know, everything is already written for a time. Everything was already planned out for a time. So you can't choose your will. You can't choose your destiny. You can't choose your fate. It's already chosen for you. So you want to pray to the Lord that he directs your paths. I'm going to get a precept on that as well. This is the book of Tobit, chapter 4 and verse 19. Bless the Lord thy God always, and desire of him that thy ways may be directed, and that all thy paths and counsels may prosper. For every nation have not counsel, but the Lord himself giveth all good things, and he humbleth whom he will as he will. Now therefore, my son, remember my commandments, thou wilt let them be put out of thy mind. So again, the point I want to touch on is what? Bless the Lord thy God always, and desire of him that thy ways may be directed, and that all thy paths and counsels may prosper. So you want to pray to the Lord that all your paths and your counsels may prosper, right? That they may go well. You know, you want to pray to the Lord that, because he's the author of the show, right? He's the one that's doing everything. He's the one that's controlling. He's the one that sends you these thoughts. You know what I'm saying? The Lord said in the book of Proverbs, let's get this precept as well on that through the Spirit. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter. Let me see, what precept do I want actually? Yeah, I'm gonna get 16, right? Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 9. It says, "A man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps." So we know that your heart may devise your way. You might wake up in the morning, write out a schedule. You already know what you want to do, and so that's your heart devising his way. But the Lord, at the end of the day, he's the author of the story, right? He's in control of the story, so he's going to see if it goes out that way or not. You might switch up your plan a little bit, right? And it's all according to his will. So that's why David is saying, "Look, oh, that my ways were directed to keep thy statutes," right? Verse 6. Then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto thy commandments. And the Lord always talks about having respect onto his law. For example, let's go to the book of Isaiah. chapter 42 and verse 21, right? Isaiah 42:21 through the Spirit, right? And it reads, Khan. It says, I'm in 41. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 42 and verse 21. The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. So he said, the Lord is going to magnify the law and he's going to make it honorable. Man is going to respect the law, because right now people don't respect the law. People don't respect the law of the Most High God, right? Which is a problem, because if you don't respect the Most High's laws, you don't respect the Most High. If you don't respect the Most High, then who the hell are you, right? If you don't have respect for the Most High, right? That's like kind of spitting in. Let's say you have, parents, whatever, father, mother, they kind of lay down the law of the household, and you completely disregard the laws and the rules and regulations of the household. That's like a spit in their face. Like, you don't give a damn about that. So again, it's the same thing with the Most High. If we just walk all over his laws, have no, you know, have no respect for him, hey, who the hell are you? Right? So you're going to be ashamed if you do that. And by ashamed, meaning confounded, it says, then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto thy commandments. And you can see that David had respect unto commandments, because when he did go off, he acknowledged his sin. And in his time of sinning, he showed repentance. Um, and he tried to turn back from it. You understand? And he was making supplication unto the Most High. So that shows you that he had respect unto the commandments. Verse 7, I praise thee with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteous judgments. Right? And so that's plain as well. You want to praise him with the uprightness of your heart. I want to get this in the Hebrew for uprightness. It says straightness, uprightness, evenness, moral implications. Right? Uprightness is heart. Uprightness of your mind, because that's what your heart is. Your heart is your mind. Okay? This muscle, because that's what your heart is. It's just a muscle. It's pumping blood, right? It's receiving it, you know what I'm saying? And pumping it out, receiving, pumping it out. It's literally just a muscle in your chest. It doesn't do any thinking. What does the thinking is your mind, is your brain, is your head. That's what does the thinking. So whenever it talks about your heart, it's not necessarily talking about your heart, it's talking about your mind, right? So I will praise you with uprightness of mind. I'll praise you with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteous judgments. And what's the righteous judgments? Righteous judgments is first and foremost the judgments that you read about in the law, right? You read about the laws, the commandments, statutes, and judgments. And all those judgments are righteous judgments. For example, death to those that commit bestiality. That's literally in the law. That's a judgment in Leviticus chapter 18, right? I believe, it's like it. If it's not 18, I believe it's 20, right? Leviticus 20. But again, that's an example of a righteous judgment. Every judgment that the Lord puts out is righteous. Let's get this precept. Because again, the Lord said, let's go to actually I'm gonna go to this precept first. It's the book of second Ezra, chapter 16. Let's go to second Ezra 16 and verse 67. Behold, God himself is the judge. Fear him. Leave off from your sins and forget your iniquities to meddle no more with them forever. So shall God lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. So God himself is a judge. So of course he's going to be giving out those righteous judgments, right? Who else is going to give out these righteous judgments? It's the Most High, right? Let's go to what's the precept I was going to? Right. It kind of escaped me actually. But nevertheless, it says, what? I'll praise thee with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteous judgments. Right? Oh yeah, I was going to go to Sirach. I'll praise this. This is the book of Sirach. Chapter let's see here. 39 and verse 16. All the works of the Lord are exceeding good, and whatsoever he commanded shall be accomplished in due season. And none may say, what is this? Wherefore is that? For at time convenient they shall all be sought out. At his commandment, the waters stood as an heap, and at the words of his mouth, the receptacles of water. At his commandment is done whatsoever pleases him, and none can hinder when he will save. So again, it says, all the works of the Lord are exceeding good, right? So even all his judgments, all the things that he executes, all the things that he puts in place, it's all righteous. Verse 8, I will keep thy statutes, oh, forsake me not utterly. And that's crucial too. Oh, forsake me not utterly. David did not want the Lord to forsake him. And we don't want that either. Because, it's bad. If your God, the only God of the universe, forsakes you, you have nothing left. If the creator of the Most High forsakes you, you have nothing left. Right? Because he is the boss. He is the creator. He is the King of Kings. So if he leaves you, we don't have anything else. So I say, look, oh, forsake me not utterly. Right? And that's literally it through the Spirit. Right? It was just literally 1 through 9. Or so like 1 through 8. Right? But again, it was just I just wanted to go over, that part of the Psalms 119. All right, because Psalms 119 is a very, very long chapter with 176 verses. All right, so with that, all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Hamashiach wa Malak Yahweh Shah. All right, and I'm gonna end it off with this through the Spirit. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 119. Psalms chapter 119 and verse number 126. It is time for thee, O Lord, or Yahweh, to work, for they have made void thy law. So again, we look in the world, everybody has made void the law. Void what law? Not the law of the land, but void the law of the Most High. Nobody cares about the law of the Most High in this world, right? And what are they doing in this world, man? They literally just celebrating Christmas, celebrating New Year's. That's a sin, right? They don't give a damn about nothing, man. Right? And Khan, Shalom, Shalom. Mighty brother Shalimar, all praise to the Most High, right? Yeah, they don't give a damn about nothing, man. Hey, it's time for the Most High to work. It's time for the Most High to rise up out of judgment or rise up from his sleep, like it says in the book of Psalms. Let me get this real quick before I end it. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 107, and verse number oh no, Salakia, no, that's not what I wanted, right? Yeah, this is what I want. All praises. Psalm chapter 78 and verse number 65. Then the Lord awakened as one out of sleep, and like a mighty man that shouted by reason of wine, and he smote his enemies in the hidden parts, and he put them to a perpetual reproach. So again, that was really during the time of back then, right? That already had happened through the Spirit, because it's right in past tense. But the thing is, the Lord, according to Ecclesiastes 3:15, the Lord requires that which is past. So he's going to do that again. And like we just read in Psalm chapter 119 verse 126, it's time for thee, O Lord, to work, for they have made void thy law. So you think the Most High is going to sit back while he sees the wicked of his people and he sees the wicked nations just making void the law, right? Just walking all over his royal law. You have something called the royal law, right? In the book of James. You know what I'm saying? The royal law. The law is called good by Paul in Romans chapter 7 and verse 12 on down. And the law is spiritual. So all these things, the law is likened onto. And the law is going to give you or going to bring you to the kingdom of heaven. And the law was a schoolmaster, etc., etc. So all these things, the law is put in a positive light, right? So you see all these people making void the law. The Lord, he needs to work. He needs to awake out of sleep. You understand? And come down onto the heavens of the earth and set things in order like he's been saying he's going to do through the spirit power Yahweh Hashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, man. So kind of with that, all praise Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah. Didn't want to make this too long a video through the spirit. The water for tuning in. Shalom. Kwam Yashala.